live from Paris, as you can see, the one and only Mr. Brian Windhorst. How are the beignets over there?
Oh, bonsoir, mes amis. It's a wonderful time here in Paris. Just for you, Christine, I asked him to light it up before I left.
Our international man of mystery, Brian Windhorst. He covered the Paris Olympics. He saw Team USA take home gold to become world champs. See what I did there? But on the NBA side, there have actually been 6 different champions in the last 6 years. So it's safe to say there is some parity in the league for the first time in a while. So since we have Windy back, let's do something new. It is called the Tower of Power. So Brian Windhorst, while it may only be September 19th, let's do one last off-season ranking here. We're going to start at number 5.
Yeah, well, I'm going to, out of respect for a perk, I'm not going to say bam. How about we say boom and start with number 5? How about the Dallas Mavericks? Now, we know that Dallas is going to be a very formidable team again this year with Luka and Kyrie back. I think their continuity will certainly help. I think that run that they made last year in the playoffs really showed how good they can be. Plus, we may see even a more developed Derek Lively, who's been shooting 3-pointers in the offseason. If he adds that, that's a whole nother dimension. And I didn't even mention Klay Thompson. In 4th, boom! How about the Wolves of Minnesota? Because they won a ton of games last year, and I know that they beat the Mavericks, or they got beat by the Mavericks in the playoffs. This team is still one of the best defensive teams in the league. They have Ant Edwards, who I think could become an MVP candidate this year. They are going to be very formidable because they didn't cut any payroll. There was some concern about whether or not they were going to be able to do that, and they brought their top teams back. This one could be controversial, Malika. Boom, with the Denver Nuggets. I know we just spent a whole segment earlier talking about why the Nuggets may backslide. And I don't think that the Nuggets will have the 3rd best record during the regular season. But if Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray are right, beating them best of 7 is going to be very, very hard. I know that they went down last year, but I honestly believe they were not that far off from repeating. All right, number 2, a fast rising team. Boom! That would be the Thunder from Oklahoma City. This is a team that of all these teams in the top 5 has added to their roster this offseason by adding Isaiah Hartenstein and that stunning trade early in the offseason, bringing in Alex Caruso. And I think you're going to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander only continue to dominate. Number 2 in the MVP standings, great chance to be number 1 this year. But our number 1 in the Tower of Power, you know where I'm going. Boom! How about the defending champions? It flies in the face of your list there, Malika, that we may not have a repeat champion. Guess what? This is the best chance we've seen to repeat in years. Now, Kristaps Porzingis is going to miss the early part of the season recovering from that ankle surgery, but this team is deep. They are young. They are equipped to compete. Absolutely, the East is going to be harder for them to dominate this year, but there's no reason why they shouldn't sniff 60 wins again if they stay healthy.
I'm just looking at this, Festus. Windy only has 1 Eastern Conference team in his top 5. Did he get this right?
I was thinking about this, and Windy, you did a great job. All 5 I love. Special consideration to the Indiana Pacers. I don't really like where the Dallas Mavericks are in that chart, but
Too high or
I
too
think
low?
they're too low.
Okay.
But I think all 5 of these teams are going to be a problem this season. Obviously, the Boston Celtics are number 1 defensive champions. Defense, offense, they're the best in the NBA, and every other team is aspiring to be that.
There you go.
Those are some great photos there. I was thinking of Bob Myers in studio, making his NBA Today debut in studio with us here. You spent 11 years with Golden State, and we thought we would, tap into that valuable insight that you possess here. Get a little perspective that only a general manager can have. So since you were embedded in the Western Conference, let's start right there, shall we? We're going to head to Phoenix, Bob, because they were swept by the Wolves in the first round. Their big addition this summer has been Tyus Jones. How would you grade Phoenix's offseason so far?
Well, their big addition was Budenholzer, in my estimation, because he's going to get them organized. This was a team that really struggled in the 4th quarter, fell apart in many situations. Tyus Jones does help because he will slow them down and hopefully manage that offense. But Budenholzer plays a certain way, and his job is to get these guys, Beal, Booker, and Durant, to get on the same page defensively, offensively, and execution-wise. Because you saw this team in the 4th quarter unravel so many times. They are as talented as any team in the NBA. And Budenholzer has traditionally done very well with talented teams.
Yeah, so year 2 of this roster, this group, with the addition of Mike Budenholzer. Festus, what's the ceiling for this team?
Well, I think when you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker on the same team, you think championship. That's the reason why you bring these superstars together. And I will look from the player's perspective. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker playing on the Olympic team this summer. I thought that their roles were going to help their team this season, the Phoenix Suns, because Devin Booker got to play off the ball. He was in the corner, he was a spot-up shooter, and he got to see a lot of success in that role. He's a guy who they're going to need somebody to sacrifice and be that guy in this season. When you have Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker in one team, having Tyus Jones is going to help as a point guard, having somebody facilitating, distributing the ball.
Right.
That's going to be really key for this team. But also having a coach in Mike Budenholzer, like Bob just said, is going to be really key for a team that have a lot of superstars, has a lot of firepower. How do you organize that, and how do you get a point guard to get the ball to the right place?
Right, they have all the talent in the world, but now they're going to need to be able to put all of the pieces together. Let's go to a team now that was also eliminated by the Wolves, this time, though, in the second round. The Denver Nuggets, right? They lost in 7 this offseason. They lost 2-time champ Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who seems to win anywhere he goes, and they're doubling down on their young core. So, Bob, do you think that they did enough to stay in that upper echelon?
Do I get to be the GM of these teams? Is that what I get to? Do I actually get to be the?
Yes,
okay.
You are
So if I was Denver's general manager, I would be so happy that I have what I think is the best player in the NBA. I don't know if that's a controversial thing, but Jokic to me right now is. I would feel tremendous pressure and responsibility, because that may last 1 more year, it may last 2. You never know with injuries. I think Jokic does have more than that in him, but I would feel like we cannot waste this moment in time. Now, I don't think they are per se, but last year, the bench, not just me saying it, was a concern across the board. Everybody said, does Denver have a good enough bench? We saw them get exhausted in the playoffs. The problem, though, is you've got Murray on a max. You've got Jokic on a max. You've got Porter Jr. on a max. Where's the money supposed to come from for a bench? You know, Aaron Gordon is a highly paid guy. So when I look at them, I go, okay, how critical can I be? They've spent money.
Right.
But for whatever reason, and that's why repeating so hard, but they've had some time off now. But I would feel like we got to win. We got to win because we got this player in Jokic.
When you look at the championship core they had a couple of years ago, so many of their players are no longer on that roster. You can see their rotation here. Zach, do you think, though, the Nuggets championship window, do you think it's still open?
It's still open as long as Nikola Jokic is on the team and healthy, and Jamal Murray is on the team and healthy. But look, this team blew a gigantic lead at home in Game 7 of the second round in a season where a repeat was there for them. They could reach out and touch it. They could have beaten any other team in the NBA in a 7-game series, maybe even Boston. And now, if they lose in a similar round, like a second round again this year, this feels like the year where if that happens, the next season, something big is going to change. I don't know what it is. I just know this core is enormously expensive. Aaron Gordon is going to soon be up for a big extension that will give him a bigger salary number. The bench is young and untested. There are more questions than there really should be about a team that was the no-brainer favorite to win the West last season and fell 2 rounds short of where they wanted to get. If they don't get where they need to get this season, I think something there is going to change. And I mentioned Milwaukee is the pressure team in the East. Denver is the pressure team in the West.
Interesting, Brian. Pressure team in the West.
Yeah, because as Bob mentioned, you know, one of the tough things about being the GM, why you don't want that job, is you had a big decision with spending this season. It just got to the point where ownership had drawn the line, and I get it. They were going to be a very expensive team. What they basically decided was not to pay Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's a multi-time champion and a key role player, and to pay Jamal Murray and probably Aaron Gordon. We're going to see Aaron Gordon is eligible for an extension in the next couple of weeks here. I would expect them to try to get that done. And Jamal Murray did not have a good spring and summer. His numbers in the playoffs were okay, but looking at his career numbers, they were down. It was actually his worst playoff performance. And I know he had injuries to his calf and his elbow. I'm not disregarding that, but his numbers were down. And then he just flat out looked really off this summer in the Olympics for Team Canada. He shot 29% over in France for the Canadians. They had a disappointing early exit. And look, that was just 4 games. I'm not judging it on that, but he comes back and it gets a $200 million extension with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope over in Orlando. So they have reached the sort of the maturation point of a champion. We have seen I believe, 6 or 7 consecutive years where we have not seen a repeat champion. And there's one of the reasons is because paying everybody and deciding who you're going to pay is difficult. And that's where the Nuggets have run into. They've run out of time with cheaper contracts. And as Zach said, the pressure has now arrived.
And Bobby, you know this better than anybody else. Trying to repeat after a championship is hard because those pieces that caused the championship, that led you to a championship, a lot of teams want them.
Yeah.
And so they lost Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I know this from personal experience, at least watching the Warriors go against the Nuggets. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope played a role so incredible for them because that defense on Steph Curry, we would see that every night with Golden State. He was unrelenting. So having a piece like that, losing Bruce Brown, the year before, these are pieces they're going to keep losing. So time is counting right now for the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, there are certainly those role players that played such an important part in their championship pursuit.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Keep them down, try to wear, I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA, I'm a